Okay, good morning everybody. My name is Adrian Duckenfield. I'm a pre-sales engineer working for WatchGuard in the UK and Ireland. If this is the first time you've joined me on one of these webinars, let me just give you a quick overview of what it's all about. So what we want to do is just run these webinars periodically. At the moment it's every week, literally just to give you guys a 5, 10, maybe a 15-minute window on how to actually configure specific modules and features within the firewall. So it's really just a quick how-to guide. And with that in mind, let's start looking at what we've got on the plan for today. So today we're going to be looking at traffic management. Now, we've had traffic management in the firewall for years, actually, but what you may or may not be aware is it has actually changed within the last couple of versions. So historically, the way it used to work is you would create a traffic management action. From there, you could assign it to your rules, and then basically it's a free-for-all. Everybody could have as much bandwidth as they liked until you got to about 90% of the threshold, and then all of a sudden the traffic management would kick in and then start throttling everybody back. We've changed the way that works. These days when we create the traffic management actions, it works from the get-go. So if I say you can only have 2 meg, you only get 2 meg. It's not a free-for-all. Those days are gone. So let's have a look with how we actually configure this. So I've got my policy in front of me here, and the very first thing you want to do is you actually need to go and turn the module on. It's not turned on by default. So to do this, you go to Setup, Global Settings, Networking, and then you have Enable all traffic management and quads features. So that's not turned on by default. Now it's not turned on because ticking that box will have a very minor performance impact. Now it's nothing to be worried about. Ticking every box on the firewall will have a very minor performance impact, as does adding rules. That's how firewalls work. So it's not turned on by default because you may not want to use that feature. So there's no point having that tiny performance impact just for that. So we enable that one, we tick that like so. Okay, the engine's now on. The next thing we go and do is we go and create some traffic management templates to use. So to do this, we go to Setup, Actions, Traffic Management. Let's get rid of that one there as a test. Okay, right, I'm going to go ahead and create some templates. Now we have 3 options for templates. We have all policies, per policy, per IP address. All policies. If I create an all policies template, what this is going to do is give me a maximum bandwidth, a guaranteed minimum bandwidth, and if I assign this template to multiple rules, they will all share that resource. If I change it to per policy, they will all now have that resource each. So if I said you get, for example, 3 megabits maximum, each policy now gets 3 meg maximum. If I change it to per IP address, we're now working on a per user basis. So what I could now do is 10 users all get a maximum of 3 meg each. Okay, let's go ahead and create some of these, assign them to the rules, and actually watch it working. So what I'm going to do first of all is do an all policies template, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this, let's call it global, why not? And I'm going to say you can have a maximum of 50 meg, and I'll give you a minimum guaranteed of 30. Okay, nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and create another one. Let's call this one iPlayer. Let's do this one on a per IP address basis, and I'm going to say, right, you can have 2 meg maximum, and I'm feeling pretty generous. I'll give you 1 meg guaranteed, and I'm just going to put 5 users. Now obviously in a real world scenario you'd probably put something like 50 or something like that. Now let me explain how this works. I've said here 5 users get 2 meg each. If user number 6 tries to go to iPlayer or whatever I assign this template to, he or she will get a 50% share of one of the existing 5. So I will never exceed 5 times 2 meg, so 10 meg. I will never exceed that bandwidth. And it keeps going like that, and it uses round robin to draw the short straw for whoever gets their bandwidth cut in half. And once you reach once everyone's bandwidth's been cut in half, then it goes into quarters, then it goes into eighths, and so on and so on. So you will never exceed the maximum number you put in this template. Let's create one more. Streaming media. Okay, and we'll do a similar thing here actually. I think I'll do the same thing actually. Let's go to megabits. You can have 2. You can have 1. Now, because I'm going to probably do this on a category level, I am going to be a bit more generous. Let's put 20 in there. Okay. So there's my templates, and as you can see, none of them are being used at the moment. So what we now do is we go and assign these to the rules. Now I've got multiple rules in here. I'm just going to pick the one that I know I'm going out through. So my HTTP rule, we go to the Advanced tab. Now with the older versions, you used to only have the one drop down here for your traffic management, and you would assign a template to it. Now in the latest release, we have 2. And you can see here, it's from to to and to from. So these are the from fields and the to fields within the policy itself. So depending on which direction you want to throttle the traffic is which one you would put it on. Now, if you're ever in any doubt which one to put it on, to be honest, it probably wouldn't hurt just to put it on both. So I'm going to put my global one on both. So it doesn't matter if the traffic is going out, it doesn't matter if the traffic's coming in. I have now said you can have a maximum of 50 meg anywhere on the internet. Whatever you do hitting this policy, you can have 50 meg maximum, 30 meg guaranteed. I'm now going to move over to my application control. Now there's 2 ways we can get to the app control. You can either edit the template in which you're specifically using from here, or you can do it from the subscription services menu. It's entirely up to you which one you go to. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and find our favorite app, iPlayer. I'm going to edit iPlayer. Now I could do the granular options of saying, can you get to it? Can you transfer media, this, that, and the other? But now I've specifically allowed the application to work. You see beneath it, the option for traffic management is no longer grayed out. So I can now enable this and select my iPlayer template. Okay, so a quick recap. If you hit this policy, you're going to get 50 meg of bandwidth. But if you now hit this particular application, you're going to get 2 meg. There we go. So that's how I now throttle that bandwidth for iPlayer. There's another cool way of doing it as well. You can actually manage these applications via the categories. So we've got peer-to-peer, streaming media, anonymous proxies, gaming. Now in here, people think you can just allow them or block them from here, but you can actually do more. You can also assign the traffic management here as well. So remember, I created that template. So here we go. I can now assign the traffic management template to it. So all of my streaming media apps are now allowed, but I don't care which app you're going to use, it's going to get a maximum of 2 meg. So I can do bandwidth on policies, which means I can do bandwidth on users and groups or subnets or however you want to do it. I can do bandwidth on applications individually, and I can do bandwidth on applications as an entire category. So let's OK this. Excellent. Right. At this point, let's save it back to the box. We do our old fingers crossed thing, and we hope that it works. Like so. Right, now to view it actually working, what you want to do is open your Firebox System Manager, and you've got the Traffic Management tab across the top here. So we'll just wait for mine to log in. Okay. So you can see my templates already. Now a little trick for you guys. What you may have not noticed is down here I've got 0 seconds. In this drop-down menu, the minimum is 5. But a little helpful thing for you. You can actually highlight the 5, type 0, press enter, and now it's going to update in real time. And we are digressing slightly, but it is actually particularly useful when you're looking at things like the traffic monitor, because you can actually see things happening in real time, as opposed to having to wait for those 5 seconds to pass. Okay, right, let's expand some of these. Something not quite right with this Firebox System Manager. There we go, it's got a bit of a lag on it. Right, so we can see at the top here my global policy, and I've got hardly any traffic going out here at all. We can see my iPlayer with my 5 users, and if I was to expand that one beneath there, you would see I've got the one for the 20 users beneath that as well. So if we now go into here and we start watching some random iPlayer things, match of the day. Okay, so that's playing. Straight away, you can see the bandwidth happening in here, and you get to see it actually on the graph up here as well. So this is my maximum cap, this is my minimum cap, and you will see the bandwidth go straight up to the maximum, and it will start throttling it down. What I've noticed actually with iPlayer is it uses next to no bandwidth. Look at that, 20K. It's doing nothing at all. So actually iPlayer doesn't use as much bandwidth as you may think it does. Now with these minimum and maximum caps, what you will find is it is possible that the traffic will exceed that cap, but only for a very short burst. So basically it bursts out to try and get as much information as it can. We then go, oh, hang on a minute, you're exceeding that. And at that point, we then start to throttle it down. So don't be surprised if you do see this line suddenly shoot above the maximum slightly and then come back down over a period of time. That's quite normal behavior. It's all to do with how the packets burst. Okay, and there we go. So we can see that working. That's traffic management in a nutshell. It's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. It works very, very well. Now, I've used it to create templates to give me maximum bandwidths, so my users can't consume too much bandwidth over streaming media. But you could also use these to do minimum guaranteed bandwidths for your business critical applications like your VoIP telephone system, I don't know, video conferencing, those kinds of things. So maybe I have a SIP rule or a video conferencing rule, and I create a template and assign it to that to give that particular policy a minimum guaranteed to always ensure there's enough bandwidth for that particular business critical application to work. It's not just about capping the maximum, it's also about giving you the minimum guaranteed. Okay guys, that's the app control in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to fire them over via email and I will answer those for you. My email address would have been in the invite that's gone out. And I guess I'll see you guys this time next week. Next week we are going to be looking at HTTPS deep packet inspection. It sounds big and scary. It's actually pretty straightforward. It is pretty easy to configure. We've made some changes recently to make it easier to configure for you guys as well. So tune in same time next week and we'll have a look at it there and then. Take care guys, speak to you soon.